bearded burbler, he's in his element. It's just like nature. It's what we're all about. Wagons ho! Have a look at that! Whoa! Just when they think it's safe to come out. Not an animal! Bang! I guess in the end, that's probably why we all go fishing. Oh, fantastic, spot on. G'day, folks, and welcome to Rex Hunt Fishing Adventures. I have a special guest on board, folks, and I'll introduce her to you in just a few seconds. Now, launching a boat for most people is a walk in the park, and I know a lot of you out there have seen it before. However, the first time can be a harrowing experience, but folks, it's easy. Come on, I'll show you how. The most important thing is to make sure that the trailer has enough water to float the boat. Now, some people put the car in, and when the bubbles come out the exhaust, yibbida yibbida, folks, she's all over. But the boat is designed to float on top of the trailer, and then it acts as a cradle. Now, a lot of people say, gee, where's your launching rope? Well, if there was two of you, there certainly would be. And my special guest, she's just getting ready to say hello, folks. So, what I do when I'm on my own, I take the pressure off the winch, I undo the safety chain, and I allow the winch to go down as far as that. The slack comes up, and the slack is there because there's a nice little rope down the bottom holding it on, just like a good mate. Now, the next thing, I'm going to hop into the boat. But I'm not going to give you a bit of a laugh, folks. Do a cutaway, Bob. This is going to be very ugly. So, folks, 35 years ago in a grand final, I would have leapt over the top of that windscreen, but times have changed and I've moved on. Now, we have the entire weight of the boat supported on that rope, about 1,800 kilos. We start our boat, we put it into gear, and we take the pressure off that rope by driving it up with the slack, just like that, holding the boat like that. We are now free, and what happens is, when we take the pressure off, here we go. We launch our boat, and away we go.
I've got the rods, Dad.
A very important part of the day's proceedings, darling. Down you come. Welcome aboard. Well, folks, the pride of my life, female-wise, as far as my children is concerned, is my daughter Rachael. And yes, you're saying, wasn't she on last year? Well, perhaps you might have seen her, and we might catch up with a bit of that footage later on. But we're going whiting fishing today. Are you able to remember when you first caught a whiting?
I do remember I was very young and I used to come out in the boat with my little box of Barbie dolls and sit up the front and play Barbies, and I wasn't very interested. But I do remember that I was quite good when they came on the bite.
So, Rach, apart from our lovely sandwiches and drinks, on the menu today, the King George whiting. Now, you don't mind catching them or eating them, do you?
Oh, it's a beautiful fish to eat and a lot of fun to catch as well.
And, folks, she was very, very knee-high to a grasshopper when she caught her first Chinese fish, the whiting. Rex and daughter, let's go fishing. Folks, I get very, very excited about simple things in my life. Apart from a family, the fact that I can come out after living in a metropolis with 3 million people in it and come out here and catch a feed of fish. Now, Rachel, please go across there. We have a couple of inquiries already. Have you got yours on?
Yep,
Well, I
definitely.
haven't. I don't think I've got mine on. And I have got this one on here. You will please excuse me, folks, because I was just going to do what's called a stand-up in this industry with my daughter, and the fish have started to bite. Started to bite big time. Now, this place here is called St Leonards. It's on the Bellarine Peninsula out of Geelong, which is around about an hour and a half's drive from Melbourne down the Bellarine Peninsula. And these fish here are called King George whiting. Now, I know the South Australian and Western Australian viewers would say they're not whiting, but you can only catch the fish that are there. Now, these particular fish come into this bay. Notice I gave him a kiss, and that's our tea tonight, folks. Come into this bay as very, very small larvae. And then they grow to this size, they leave the bay and go across to South Australia to breed. Now, the most important thing here, and Rachel, you'll be able to attest to this, since you are knee-high to a whiting, the whiting bite very, very quickly. And if you're here for 3 or 4 hours, you might only get about 10 minutes at them.
That's right, it's really a reflex sort of thing. As soon as you see the bite, you've got to strike, and they're great fun to catch.
They are. This is prime time. We have a northerly coming in. I don't think it's going to get much more than the 10, 12, 13 knots it is at the moment. We're on a tide change. I have what's called a bridle rope. That is not me anchoring from the back. I have that rope tied onto my main anchor, which is at right angles. Now, if we were at right angles, we'd have to fish out of the side of the boat. But because the tide has started to flood and run up here towards the West Channel pylon, we are in prime whiting territory. As you can see, there's 20 or 30 boats out here this afternoon, and it's not an ideal day. But yesterday's recce trip with my wife and myself, we found some whiting here, and we thought you'd bring you along, folks. Come on, let's do some whiting fishing together. On, Rach?
Yep, got him there.
Riding okay?
Another good one.
You like those little rods, don't you?
I like them. You can really feel where the fish is going.
Too right.
It's not just like hauling the fish in. Bit of
Lovely.
a fight.
A lovely little King George whiting. Well, Rach, you can fix that particular one up. I just had a bite then. And we might just do a little bit of homework. The whiting feeds in the tide, and he feeds around dark and light patches. Now, when you come out here, you can probably pick up in this area, because it's only about 16 or 17 foot deep in the old scale, the dark and light patches. The light patches are the sand, and that's where the whiting feed on the polychite worm, which is part of their staple diet. Now, this is not a very big fish, this one here. It's not a very big fish at all. You know why? Because it's not a fish at all. So I got done there, and the whiting will come up here in their hundreds, just looking for some action. And it's just great fun, folks. Fair dinkum. They're not huge fish, but I tell you what, if there's a better eating fish in the world, you tell me. Welcome back, folks. Did you ever think about it? And I tell you what, I'll bet you my best packet of prawns that those of you who have tasted Australian King George whiting, you can't find a better eating fish in the world. I can tell you now. And right, folks, this is my little girl in action. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Isn't this terrific fun? And Rach, it's actually a good kids fish to learn, understand the light bites and the angling sort of side. That's a beautiful whiting, Rachel. Look at that. Now that is... Now, Rach, what did you say earlier on about you usually catch more
Women
ones,
out
bigger
fishing
ones
men?
than men?
Well...
Oh, my goodness me. You want a little rag or you got him? Pick up your rag there, Rach. Well, a beautiful, beautiful fish. You might have swallowed the hook. Now, folks, I've got a chance of saying Rach can't catch the biggest. I tell you.
No, I think mine's definitely bigger, Dad.
My goodness me. Outdone by your little girl? She's not a little girl anymore, folks. I'm sorry, Brendan, about that little daub of salt water and fish slime there. The King George whiting is quite an amazing fish. His mouth is on the bottom part of his face. The long shank hook just fits beautifully into the mouth, and you can pull it out like that. I use a number 6 or a number 8 long shank hook with a little red bead. Now, sometimes down here, you can be in a situation where your bait might be covered in a bit of weed or whatever, but this little bead shines, and shines it does, and attracts the whiting. The old King George whiting, folks, the whiting. Very, very interesting fish. Great to be able to catch them as winter approaches in Melbourne. He has got to be on. There's some times when you really don't have to strike. Now, you'll notice our white nibble tips are bite indicators. And there are some times when the fish just take that indicator, load up the rod, and yibbida yibbida, folks, it's all over bar the shouting. This feels like a better whiting. Perhaps it's 2, perhaps it's 1. And I can tell you now what happened. The bottom whiting has been taken by a squid. So that's a very, very interesting scenario. He swallowed that hook, but that whiting on the bottom, he was taken by a squid. Lifting and winding. We just say that every week, but that's what the kids are all about. You know why, Rach? You've caught it in the tail. Now that fish there,
look how little
he's undersized. He's under the 27 centimetres, so do you want me to fix him up?
Let him go then.
Well, he's got to go because he's undersized for a start. But that fish there is in very, very good hands. Now that is around about, well, he's 23 centimetres. A very good example of what I was talking about. That whiting, I'll put you back, mate, away you go. That whiting has come in at about 2 inches in the old scale into this bay. When he gets to about 32, 33, which is about the average run of fish today, they'll leave the bay. There's a better one. That's about 38. Now, people saying, oh, that's still not a big whiting. But for the week before winter in Port Phillip Bay, that is still a very, very good whiting. Oh, what a beautiful King George whiting. Now that's a great example of what we're talking about, folks. 2 pieces of whiting, crumbed or battered, just in a light oil rate. You just can't do better, can you? Absolutely magnificent. I'll pop him away. Come on, mate, you're fine. The crew's going to enjoy lovely King George whiting. Now, Rach, it's a lovely little rod. Now, I got that made for Mum because she didn't like the real long rod that I do. But you don't mind a long rod because we've seen you in action in Narooma with a long rod.
Yep.
But with a short rod, I think it's a good idea for kids because if you learn that light line style of fishing with that nibble tip early, you never ever forget it. And Rach, can you please tell the kids out there and the women, a right-handed angler winds with the left hand?
Definitely. The right hand is used for casting and controlling the rod, and
Yeah,
because you have most of your power and control in the hand that you write with.
that's right.
And then you wind with your left hand. So
That's
it makes
exactly
a lot
right.
of sense.
So, folks, Rach, we need to take a breath, don't we? Because it's so exciting,
we
isn't it?
do.
It's just fantastic, folks. Whiting fishing can be very, very slow, or it can be hectic like it is at the moment. We're going to actually have a bit of a break, folks. And on the other side of this, we'll rejoin Rexy and the girl at St Leonards, Victoria. Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying it. I hate to admit this, I'm being outfished for size. I'm certainly getting the numbers of fish, and these are very, very good whiting. Don't get me wrong. These are lovely, lovely winter run of fish down here at St Leonards. But folks, this is not a setup. Rachael is killing her old man today. I think I've taught my kids too well. Not all that bad, is it? Folks, you just got to open bait all the time, because when the fish come, you'll use up a lot of bait. And even when the fish are not biting, when I say the fish, the King George whiting, even when they're not biting, you're feeding what we call unwanted rubbish fish, like leather jackets, tiny little slimy wrasse. Little things like that just continually eat up your supply of bait. So these are South Australian cockles, and you people from South Australia and Western Australia will recognise them. But in Victoria, we import them. But they are absolutely dynamic bait for two reasons. You can freeze them, and they are instant. And they are just a fantastic bait. But down this way, a piece of squid is the preferred bait. And what they do, a few of the old blokes you'll see chew it. You'll see the bloke that's thinking, oh, he's chewing gum. He'll be chewing his piece of squid. And that is a dynamic bait together with the pippy or cockle. It's just a soft bait like the natural diet of the King George whiting, which is the polychite worm. And he sticks his head up in the sand and the old whiting goes bang. Thank you very much. Not bad.
You gonna give that a go, Dad?
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Oh, I didn't see that you were chewing it.
Well, look at that. Another beautiful King George whiting. On you go, mate. All right, the tide is starting to tire a little bit, and we're just about out of time on the show, but we're going to do a bit of fishing with the crew and take home a lovely feed of fish. I want to tell you what a pleasure it's been for the old man to have you on the show.
It's been great, Dad. Good to be on.
Thank you, Mother, for the rabbits. The old bearded burbler, he's in his element. It's just like nature. It's what we're all about. Wagons ho! Have a look at that! Just when they think it's safe to come out. Not an animal! Bang! I guess in the end, that's probably why we all go fishing. Not what we're looking for, but a good example, folks, of what this system here at Port Albert is all about. Part of the mammoth estuarine system that stretches from Wilson's Promontory in the west right down to the entrance at McLaughlin's Beach towards Lake's entrance end of the 90 Mile Beach. A beautiful example of an estuarine system doing well. Arapus trutta is the Australian salmon, and this is the one we catch on the surf beaches. As he gets a little older, perhaps another year or so, see you later, mate, he will head to the ocean with his thousands of mates. He'll lose those spots, get a big dark back, and he'll become the sport fish of the 90 Mile Beach and other beaches towards Melbourne. But Port Albert is just a fantastic example of man and nature working together. The locals are out today chasing the old Chinese fish, the King George whiting. I'm aboard Sharon E2, the next edition of Mark Radden's charters out of Port Albert. Welcome aboard, folks. We're going to do a bit of fishing together. The signs are there, folks, that we're getting the first part of the tide change and the flood tide. Now the easterly has gone a bee's diaphragm just slightly to the south, and things are looking good here. Now, the whiting should turn up any moment. Just on cue, that is a very, very good example of why we came down here. A beautiful King George whiting, and that's what it's all about. I'll go through the gear in a moment because I've got a bit of a bite on that one. I might get someone to just lift that up there. Thank you, Bob. And Harry will just see we're getting a lovely run of fish in there. Now, this is not a whiting. And people say, oh, how do you know? You've got a diver down there. I don't have a diver down there. It's years of experience that tell me that flathead swim a lot more differently and bite a lot more differently than the old Chinese fish, the King George whiting. This here is a blue spotted flathead. Well done, boy. And there is a very, very good example of what this system is all about. A long-nosed flathead. Beautiful, beautiful example of one of the best eating fish in the sea. So a flathead and a King George whiting. My goodness gracious me. A little bit of housekeeping. Change of tide, the stream going at the back of the boat. We're anchored just on the edge of a channel, and the fish get a whiff of the bait that's been introduced. And this is not a bad start, folks. Every time I do a King George whiting segment, people will notice, and they actually say to me through the email, and by the way, if you want to talk to me, www.rexhunt.com.au. Speak to me. Love to hear from you. People say, you appear to be very, very agitated, excited when the whiting come on. Now in a 6-hour tide, the whiting might bite for 15 minutes. So we have the bait open, we have the best possible chances when the fish come along, and you're opening bait or sitting on your backside having a cup of coffee and the fish come past, you've missed your window of opportunity. And that's what fishing's about. It's like life, it's like business in general. Take an opportunity, by the horns, and you can come up trumps. Miss it, and you can rue it for the rest of your life. I think we have an Elvis Presley fish, the old leather jacket, folks. We're out here fishing for whiting, and isn't this just a piscatorial smorgasbord? And that piece of weed there signifies we're in the right area. The drop-offs, the sand, the weed beds, this system is absolutely magnificent. A long shank hook, because this fish here, unlike the wide-mouthed frog, there's a little set of lips like that. And he comes up and feeds in a vacuum-like motion. 6 spine leather jackets. There's 6 tiny spines down the back where Harry's showing you. The beautiful colours and the piece de resistance is that. That's what he uses to signify, I'm an Elvis Presley fish, get away from me. This is my area. But also, down on jetties, like down the back of the boat here, he goes up when the tide comes up around the pylons, and he'll come up and he'll lay on his side and he'll go rub, 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 and take all the goodness off the pier, and him and his mates will have an absolute smorgasbord. I'm not going to close this segment yet, Bob, so don't go pressing any buttons. I've got to catch you an old whiting before I sort of say, Port Albert, what a wonderful place. Notice that I'm using one with a nibble tip and one without. It's like the old trotting rig. One out, one back. The thing about it is so many people are frightened of the nibble tip. It's not part of the rod, it is a bite indicator. But all the nibble tip is, there was a bite there then, where the orange ends, that's where the rod starts. And I'll put the other one alongside it like that so Harry can show you that it's exactly the same rod with a nibble tip in the middle of it. A nibble tip in the end of it, I should say. And that fish went bang. And look at that, folks. An absolute marvellous example of why I go fishing. Now, I have an opportunity of going marlin fishing, barramundi fishing, fishing for rooster fish in South America. But I got brought up on these on the shores of Port Phillip Bay back before many of you were ever thought of. And I can tell you now, I love fishing, I love the show, and I hope you get the feeling, folks, because that's what it's all about. Folks, I think the secret, or it's not really a secret, the fact is that when you're fishing in a tide, the idea is to actually fish down the back of the boat, because the idea is you can't get them out the side because you get a bow in your line. If you get fish coming up the back of the boat, you then create a pecking order. And you get whiting moving up, you get small snapper and leather jackets, and that's really the way to fish in a tide. So many people say to me, oh, you need so much weight. I've got 1.5 ounces here in the old scale, folks, which is only a few grams. Just a little bit of a Rexy fishing school. I hope you're enjoying the show. I'm enjoying it too, folks. You better believe it. Thank you, Michael. Whoa, look at those fish. I love it. Today, the offshore breeze has given us a beautiful flat situation within sight of the shore. And out on the continental shelf where the yellowfin tuna and various species of marlin and sharks congregate in search of the bait schools, should be pretty lumpy out there today, mate.
I don't want to be out there, Rexy. I want to be right here.
So basic bottom bouncing stuff. I'm using an overhead. I've got the Superline 30-pound test. I've got a 60-pound trace. I've got Bert's Paternoster favourite rig. You know it by now, folks. Jeff Wilson has got a book out. It explains all the beautiful rigs. Squid on the bottom and the old pilly tail on the top. Bushy's got a full pilchard. Let's, on the south coast of New South Wales, do some serious bottom bashing. Now I've just hooked something in the trail which just let go, so it'll be a squid. So Bushy has actually got a squid jig on, and we're going to try and get this nice big calamari. It was a serious fish, Bushy.
Yeah, the one we saw up here earlier was a nice squid, so you never know. I reckon a bit of fresh squid tonight, cooked up in the oil. Ooh, could be us.
We've just settled down here, and my producer Bob Grieve will just cut in something that we had a marvellous experience about 15 minutes ago. We came round the corner just where the beach is north of Batemans Bay, and a pair of beautiful humpback whales appeared in just no more than 40 feet of water, and they were pretty happy. Now that the whale and her mate have headed north, we can concentrate on our burley slick, and something's starting to happen. Something's got that now. And it's not a fish, I wouldn't think. It might be a bit of... No, it's a calamari. Bushy, here he comes now. Look at this. Now, I've got to be very careful. Place the net down and then bring the calamari to the net and bang. Now, that's a nice little start because they are fantastic to eat. And if we lay him on the deck here of the New Moon 2, you'll see him actually change colour. They are just absolutely sensational. If you've got that pink towel over there, Bushy,
yep.
I might just see if we can show the folk at home just how magnificent these particular creatures are, and see if we can get him to actually try and look straight away. Straight away, he tries to blend in. He goes transparent and actually try, and there's the pink. Now that is just absolutely fantastic. The thing about it is that the burley trail is working. We've come out of the Batemans Bay entrance at the Clyde River, and we've tackled this particular westerly north. We're only a short distance from the shore because that's called the lee. That's where the good water is. We can't be out there. We're all going to get crook. You even get crook looking at home.
Okay, now here's our squid. He's gone white now because he's dead. All we do is pull the head out, and I like to freeze the head because we can take them snapper fishing or king fishing, and then just slip the whole barrel right down with a knife. And a lot of people have trouble, if you're not a professional, cleaning out that barrel. But once you split it and then open it all out, you can take that skin off, and it's very easy to gut the squid, and then you're left with a big flat plate. And we just cut it into little thin strips, Rexy, and then fry it in a bit of oil, Peanut oil is very, very good because it takes a lot of heat. You heat it up a lot, bung those little strips in and leave them about 20 seconds is all you need. Right.
Yes, Bushy?
What have you got, man?
Well, I thought it was a snapper bite, but it's pretty dead at the
Another
moment.
squid?
What's a brownie looking thing? What is that?
Has to be, oh, no, it's not a squid.
What is it?
Ah.
Well, I can lift it up. There you are, Bushy. What is that?
What is that? Well,
Sorry, mate.
That Rexy, it's all right, another head. That Rexy is the Eastern Wirra. The Eastern Wirra cod. Yeah,
A Wirra cod.
Exactly, yep.
How did it get its name?
Well, I could tell you, but we'd be censored, so...
Will we really?
Yeah.
I know how it got its name.
Is that right?
When God made this magnificent sea of ours, this one was left in the tank, and you know what he said to God? Where am I going to go? So he said, right here at Batemans Bay, throw him over the side, and that's the Wirra cod.
Inquiry?
An inquiry doesn't feel too bad. A bit of weight about it. A double header. Not a double header fisher like we would get out there at Lord Howe Island, but a double header, a moe and a snapper. Now that's not bad, is it? Look at that.
You are... I can't say what you are. You are tinny.
Don't say that. Don't say that, mate. Have a look at that. Isn't that just fantastic? Now the snapper is a reef fish, and he's quite abundant around these parts, isn't it?
Yeah, good little snapper though.
Yeah. What about this other thing? What sort of a moor one is that?
That's the rubber lip moe.
Rubber lip moe.
Pretty common here as well. I reckon your tinny has fallen off as you've wound it up.
It's fallen off as I've wound it. It's just sat on the side of the boat.
Beautiful little fish though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Nice long pectorals, blue. Not too bad to eat either.
Yeah.
Look at the colour of that tail. I think they're fantastic.
But a reef fish, is it?
Yeah, that's a reef fish. Pretty common along these headlands when you come in, but you've done pretty well. I tell you what, we've worked hard here. I mean, we've had to get out of the wind and we've done it a bit tough.
A lot of people back at Batemans Bay were sort of looking quizzically, is that the name? Is that the word?
A good word.
Quizzically at us of why are these people going out? It's a horrible day, 50-mile-an-hour winds. This fish is very, very lucky. You know what I'm going to do?
Eat him?
Take him home. Absolutely fantastic. So the bottom bouncing has actually saved our day there, Bushman. We could have been out there fighting for our life, but I tell you what, we've done okay out of Batemans Bay. I'm starting to get to like this place even more. G'day folks, and thanks for joining us for a special half-hour edition of Rex Hunt Fishing Adventures out of Vanautu. And tonight I fish off the Port Phillip coast for yellowfin tuna, one of the great adversaries of the Pacific Ocean. And Steve Starling travels to Pakula Island to do a spot of fishing in those magical waters. Put your feet up, folks. I'm sure you'll enjoy the show. Well, folks, I'm into it again. 40 miles off the coast of Vanautu in the middle of the Pacific. It appears we've hit a small school of yellowfin tuna, and with me is Mr. Trolling Lures himself, Peter Pakula, from our very own shores. Good to see you, Pakula, and welcome to the show.
And it's nice to be here, Rick, isn't it?
Well, I tell you what, this small yellowfin has nailed your lure, so he mustn't have heard of you before, because anyone that's heard of Pakula lures stays clear of him.
Pretty much.
Ah, it's a small yellowfin. Have a look at this one here. We'll get the...
Take him on that corner?
Yeah, we will there. Thank you, Marcus. We'll take him on that corner. Our decky Marcus is there. And this is a very, very good start to the day. Early in the morning, nice bait schools around. And our friend Charlie from Vanautu has sighted some good working bird flocks. And that is the absolute essence of good fishing. And so is this. This is the food chain. This is what the fish we've come to get eat. That's right, folks. The fish that we're after today actually eat these fish. The lifeblood of the sea. A small yellowfin tuna wanted to do a half pike. Now, I gave him 7 out of 10 that. The entry wasn't good. But Marcus sends him back to Mama. Off you go, son. Back into the magnificent cobalt blue waters of the South Pacific. Sorry about the little bit of slime and water on the lens there, Noel, but that's fishing. And unless I'm mistaken, folks, this is a fishing show. Unbelievable. We're in a school of yellowfin here. Oh, gee whiz. So we decided to put the light gear on, put a couple of poppers on, and I've got a Neil Patrick Halco slice on the end of this particular outfit here. It's a little Shimano 6 kilo job. And these are only small school yellowfin, but this is a very, very good way to catch them. Pakula's very busy behind me with a popper, but this is a very, very good training effort for young people wanting to get into game fishing. It gives you an understanding of the power of these little blighters, and you've got to understand when they grow to 6 and 7 foot long in the old scale that they can become pretty tough customers. Well, glare's a bit much here, folks, so please excuse me putting on the old glasses again. We've got people pulling in fish, people losing fish, people throwing up, people from magazines taking photos. Okay, coming up to the double now, I think there, Marcus. Got a bit of colour down there. Yeah, nice yellowfin, eh? Very, very nice yellowfin.
Take a look at it now?
Yeah, we want to take a look. What a beautiful looking fish. Well, there you are, folks. Another Pacific yellowfin. I reckon about 10 kilo would seem out on 6 kilo line. So sport fishing is a lot of fun. Big game fishing, I believe, just a little bit more fun. Birds working, a good colour in the ocean, a good head of juvenile fish, which is the food source for the big fellas. We look like we're in business. Okay, you want to take him out there, Marcus?
You got him?
And I'll give him a bit of a kiss. There you go, mate. All the best to you. Wagons, ho! How you going there, Peter?
It's hard work, isn't it, Rex?
It's shocking.
Oh, it's a nice little one.
Striped tuna.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of you back home would recognise this species of fish. Out here, they call them a skipjack tuna. These are commonly called striped tuna across in Australia. And a lot of you would bridle these up at Bermagui and around Sydney and catch some magnificent fish. Now, I don't want that hook in me from that Grim Reaper, so Peter is going to do the job. But can you just imagine on the continental shelf or at Montague Island, folks, something like this over the side? Thank your mother for the rabbits, and hold on to your hat.
Oh yeah, that'll do.
the old boat again. We'll catch a few fish out of that.
For sure. I'm here on beautiful Pakula Island, just a few kilometres from the coast of Espiritu Santo in the northern end of the Vanautu chain of islands. And with me is Steve Morgan. He's the editor of Queensland and New South Wales fishing monthly magazines. And we're both pretty excited about being here, only 3 or 4 hours from our homes in Australia and surrounded by these beautiful warm waters. And I hear the fishing here is pretty good too, mate.
It's got to be. We've got this nice deep water in close. We've got reef. We've got pelagics moving through. We should have a good day today, Steve.
And we've got a boat to fish out of. She might not be the prettiest vessel in the world, but she's seaworthy, and that'll do us. Come on, mate, let's get into it.
Get into it.
Okay. Woo. And what we're doing here is gathering fresh bait on our way to the reef fishing grounds. It's always a good idea to have the freshest possible bait when you're going bottom fishing. We've got some frozen stuff, but we saw a mixed school of fish chopping around on the surface. We got a couple on the troll lines, and now we've stopped and we're just casting lures, dropping them down and jigging them. And what we seem to have is a mixed school of rainbow runners and small tuna, and there's also quite a lot of large sharks here underneath. There's plenty of action. These rainbow runners are a great bait fish, very pretty fish. A lot of people back home will be able to see a resemblance to the yellowtail kingfish. They're very similar in body shape to a yellowtail kingfish, but they're a lot more colourful, especially fresh from the water, as you'll see with this guy. They've got this beautiful couple of blue stripes down the side. They're pretty active fish, as you can see. Very popular bait for marlin trolling. You rig one of those up whole and troll it, and it's a great marlin bait. But you can see these stripes down the side, which is how he gets his name of Rainbow Runner. Lovely big yellow tail. Anyway, I'm going to hang on to him for bait. With so many of these rainbow runners and small tuna around, oh, there's a big shark following mine. Steve's got the fly rod out and he should be in for some fun here in a minute. This one's a mackerel, small mackerel. So we've got all kinds of fish down here. Oh no, it's actually a scad. Look at that one, Steve. Scad, isn't it?
Yeah, that'd be a good marlin bait if we're off after marlin, but
yeah,
since we're after the poulet, we'll chop him up and use him for bottom bait.
He'll be fantastic. He'll have...
Yep.
Yes, he's on the fly. Well done. Listen to that reel go. Well, this is a great tip for those saltwater fly rodders out there. If you get onto a patch of action like this and there's plenty of fish around and there's people catching them on the lures, get that fly rod out and throw it in, because these fish love a fly. Sounds like you might have connected with something a bit bigger.
Yeah. He's taking a bit of backing here, so let's hope a shark doesn't get him before we do.
Well, there's sharks everywhere under the boat. I can tell you, I'm being a bit careful about washing my hands over the side. Isn't it great to just find a school of fish like this in such calm water?
There'll be a lot of guys in Australia that'd kill for this, eh, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it might be raining, but it's not, certainly hasn't put the fish off.
No, and you couldn't say it was cold either, could you?
No, I'm sweating here.
Now you're back into your fly line.
Yeah, the fly line's here now. And he's coming up rather quickly.
You might not have a whole fish anymore. Oh, we've got a little...
I was very lucky to get that through the runners.
Did you see it on the way out?
Feeling suspiciously,
yeah, suspiciously
lifeless.
light. No, he's still swimming. I think he's going to take off again in a minute. Oh, very nice, mac tuna.
Mac tuna.
Kawa or mackerel tuna seem to be found throughout the world. One of the lightweight pelagic fish. That's we saw them jumping, and that's what alerted us to the presence of this school of fish. And what he's done is just burnt himself out. He's been being... Oh, look at that, the fly fell out too. Great reef fishing bait.
They're beautiful when they come out of the water like this too, Steve.
Yeah.
The stripes along the back.
Fantastic. It's gone a little bit quiet on the surface now. I'm not seeing fish chopping and the birds flying around like they were before. What I'm going to try doing is letting the lure sink well down in the water column. Just because the fish have disappeared off the surface doesn't mean they've vacated the area completely. This is quite deep water, and chances are they may just have moved down to a lower level. So I'll let this metal lure sink down and then retrieve it up fairly rapidly, and we'll see if they're down there. Yes, that's where they are. Down deeper. I got that lure well down. In fact, what I did was retrieve it part of the way in and then let it sink again, so it was coming up practically vertically straight under the boat. And something's grabbed it. He's no monster, but it just goes to show that just because you can't see something on the surface doesn't mean the game's over. Oh. He was a fair way down there. Here we go. I've got colour on him now. Looks like a scad. Yep. Oh, this is a different kind of scad. This is what they call a finny scad, or in Queensland they actually call them a mad fish. I'm not sure why. I'll show you this guy when I pick him up. He's got a tail assembly a little bit like one of the tunas. Very thin in the tail wrist. And he has scoots, or modified lateral line scales down here that are very, very sharp, a bit like some of the trevallies, a giant trevally. What do you call him, Steve?
I also call him a madfish, and I'll tell you why. He's got pectoral fins here that look like an albacore.
Right.
He's got eyes that look like sort of a cross between a tuna and a big-eyed tuna, and he's got a tail that's a bit like a tuna as well, like a cross between a mackerel, a tuna, and any other pelagic fish in the ocean.
So it's a pelagic fish designed by a committee, this one.
That's right.
It's got a little bit of everything. Great-looking fish, and again, another good bait fish. Very red meat from memory. So the redder they are and the oilier they are, usually the better they are as a reef fishing bait, so we'll hang on to him. A mad fish.
Just get this boat out of this reef area a bit because something has nailed this popper.
Turn quick, Dave.
And it is popperama. Absolutely popperama. Now we can settle down to fight this fish. You're talking about a mean critter. An absolute mean critter, folks, has nailed this popper. Oh. You've got to understand that there's pressure on that particular spool is just enormous. Shimano 6500 bait runner, 7 kilo line, 10 kilo tippet, and something has nailed that as if there's no tomorrow. And the pressure on that is just awesome. Are there any questions?
I reckon you're in for about a 6 or 7 kilo one.
Starting to get a little bit of line back here now, but this is a very big fish. Tell you what, folks, this is no Port Phillip Bay flathead. We're a whiting from Sydney Harbour. This is a big fish. I think he might go a bit better than 6 or 7 kilo, but this is a good fish. This is a good fish. Got a bit of colour out there now, Noel. A bit of colour.
There's two bits of colour.
Yeah. There's something behind it. What is it, a shark?
Baby shark.
A baby shark is behind this fish.
Actually, it could be another GT. Could be its mate.
There's no cobia out here, is there?
No.
Well, there's something behind it, but I think you'd go a bit better than 6 or 7 kilo. It's another GT. Any chance of you getting that one on, mate? No?
Yeah, but there we go.
All right, but we'll just let him go. But that's a fair sort of a hunk of a fish.
Oh, yeah.
I reckon 6 or 7 kilo might have been a bit light on for the old Pakula, the makers of the lures. Have a look at that.
Have a look at that little one.
Look at the fish behind him, folks. Now, this is serious stuff. This is absolutely serious stuff. How do you want to play this, mate? In towards you?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. Come down here and have a look at this, folks. Have a look at the mouth on him. Isn't that a serious fish? What I'll do now is just back off my reel in case Peter Pakula can't control this fish, but he can because he's a fish man. He's a macho man, Big Pete. I tell you what, Joe will be glad of you, mate. Have a look at that. That's 6 or 7 kilo, eh?
It's a big 6 or 7 kilo, isn't it? Congratulations, Rick. That is a fantastic
Well, thank you very much, mate.
Fantastic
If I can get a little set of pliers out there, mate. I tell you what, isn't this fantastic? Well, you can still smell the brand new fiberglass off this 34-foot blackwatch. Vicky's choice here at Vanautu, folks. But I tell you what, let's have a look at her. Absolutely magnificent. Give us a bit of an idea of what you think she is, mate.
She'd be a good 13 kilos, I'd say.
That's terrific.
And that is a spectacular capture because you probably get 1 in 50 of these that you hook off the reef, Rick.
I reckon. Give us 30 pound, will you, folks? Don't write in. Just give us 30 pound.
I reckon.
I love you, darling. I'm going to let her go. I'm going to let her go. She's going to slide over the side and she's going to live and just reproduce some more for us. Off you go. So, folks, I'm hooked on Vanautu. A coin every now and again into the Bicky bin, and Lynn and I, and even Missy, if we can get it across the Pacific, are headed for Vanautu. Well, there you are, folks. Vanautu is truly a magical place in the Pacific. And if you get a chance, go over there. You won't be disappointed. We'll see you next week in the wonderful world of fishing. I'm Rex Hunt, and goodbye for now. Now, you won't find many more pretty species in the sea than that, folks. A beautiful blue-finned trevally. Bluefin for obvious reasons. And it's a good idea, if there's 2 of you on the boat, to just work as a team, and one just keep the fish nice and calm. Because if you've got jumping fish all around the boat, you've got hooks and lures going in one direction, and then all of a sudden you end up with, well, things in bare feet that you don't want there.